Hey everyone, today we're ranking every single killer weapon cooldown animation from worst to best. This is going to be quite a short and simple video, but I thought it was a cool idea. Let's get into it. Starting off with Plague, we have a relatively simple animation. Not particularly interesting, she just kind of raises the sensor back up after hitting. Not much going on here. I'm not sure what else could be added in here. Possibly she could do some kind of small chant though, or one of her wavy hand movements for the killer's perspective, because at the moment this one's quite plain, honestly. Executioner's has a similar thing to Plague's where he kind of glances at the weapon, except in his he does a little glance down to it and you can see the blood dripping off, which, you know, adds a little extra. It is quite character fitting though, being simplistic I suppose, although it feels quite underwhelming I think still. Twins have another kind of average animation. I actually feel it's kind of a shame with this one, because the sickle as a weapon you could try something a little more interesting with, but I guess Charlotte isn't really the type to try and add flair to her weapon wielding. So this one is just a simple flick forward and that's it. Wraith's is a little boring, but somewhat fitting for his more reserved character. He takes a thumb up to the top of his weapon and just quickly brushes it off. Again, I like the more reserved nature of this one, but it's just quite straightforward and kinda boring, especially when his weapon is quite interesting to look at and also a unique shape, so it's a shame this animation is a bit plain. Deathslinger is up next, and his isn't too great to be honest, as he just wipes off a bit of blood at the very end of the rifle where the bayonet is. I'm only ranking it a little bit higher than Wraith's similar animation, as I like that you get a good look at the rifle itself as the animation plays. The wiping of the blood is also far clearer compared to Wraith's one, as Slinger holds the weapon side on, making it a little easier to see. Huntress's is quite fitting. As a brutal and efficient hunter, she isn't exactly going to waste her time, so she just takes the axe up to her arm or sleeve and just wipes the whole thing clean in one. I like that it's one efficient motion, and also it's kinda cool to see the axe from a side on angle instead. Ghostface has a similar one to Huntress, except his is a bit more interesting I think, as he wraps his hand around the knife itself, which is questionably safe, and then swipes his hand across it to clean it. I like this one again for its efficiency and how fitting it is for the meticulous Ghostface. I do like how he concentrates on the knife itself, almost like it's an extension of his body. Trapper's is a classic Trapper one, being incredibly simplistic, with a single brush of the weapon over his arm as he cleans the weapon off. I do actually like this one quite a bit despite its simplicity, as I think it fits Trapper's character quite well, as he doesn't really like overindulge in the weapon or from wiping the blood. The animation seems more out of necessity to clean the weapon over him trying to be menacing or admiring the weapon. Nurse's is cool for the precision that she brings to it, taking a thumb and a finger and wiping the length of the bonesaw clean. This one reinforces the usage of a precise weapon with her precise and exact cleaning of it. This animation seems very measured and almost like she has done this a bunch of times before. Legion's is quite a simple double sleeve wipe, turning the blade over once as they do so. This works well for the Legion as a more human looking killer, as it's almost like it's more cumbersome or more work for them to clean their smaller weapon over some of the more trained characters who just do it in one and then continue. So I quite like that slight variation. Pig's one is much like Legion's, except she looks much more efficient and exact in her movements. She seems almost like a better trained Legion, who's done this before and isn't as sloppy with her wipes. Not too much variation though, but I think I personally find the sharpness of this animation more appealing. Bubba's is your typical shake animation, but done in quite a visually interesting way, as he does these two big flicks and you get to see the flecks of blood fly off. This one is one of the more real feeling animations, and makes the hammer feel like it has much more weight behind it after hitting a swing. Out of all of the flicking animations, this is one of the best in my opinion, while still remaining quite simple. Shapes is the only one where I think there's no point where he gets rid of blood or anything like that. He just stares at it and says, yes, this knife is made of knife. It is fitting for him though, and maybe is good for showing how little he cares about his victims, refusing to wipe the blood, but instead just admiring the weapon itself. Oni's I like a lot because it's just an incredibly clean animation, where he hits the survivor and then does this quick clean flick with the katana. It's quite a simple one to be honest, but I think it's a bit like Pig's more precise movement. This one works really well too, and shows Oni's better efficiency and precision as he flicks his blade to the side. Doctor's one feels less like a cooldown or to remove the blood or anything like that, but instead supposed to intimidate the person he is chasing, as he slams the bat against his hand almost in anticipation. This one is super creepy and gets across the Doctor's vibe very well, as he weighs up the bat and gets ready to hit once more. Spirit has a great animation as she takes the extended katana and lets it kind of phase back into her arm, or back to the shard. This one has quite a unique animation as the blade retracts back. You also get a long look at the weapon itself too, which is quite cool. It's mainly the ripple effect of the retraction though that makes this a cool animation. Blight's one is quite a simple double flick of his cane, where small specks of blood fly off. I think despite the simplicity of this one, I like it more because the speed at which Blight flicks the cane fits him well with his constant state of agitation and energy. It's like he wants to clean the cane off, but he also wants to get right back into chasing as soon as possible, and I like that. He also does a hand scrunch at the same time to keep it occupied too. Nemesis I am somewhat biased towards, as I just like the fact that it's a literal fist so much. All he does is open his hand briefly before closing it once more. But yeah, I just think this one is really cool looking. It's kind of a similar idea to Doctor, of it being more about looking intimidating over cleaning the weapon itself. Hillbilly's animation has him toss his hammer up into the air and do a little spin with it. I like this as it shows Hillbilly's kind of sadistic enjoyment of the trials in a really simple and quick way. The spin itself is also quite visually engaging as an animation and lets you see more of the lower part of the weapon that you otherwise barely see, which is cool too. Freddy's is like a combination of admiring the weapon and also trying to look menacing toward the survivor, which is very fitting with his character as someone who literally thrives off of people's nightmares. For this, he kind of fans out the clawed glove and lets the blood drip out between the claws, before finally shaking them. This is a cool one and definitely one of the most menacing ones to look at, and as killer, feel powerful with. Demogorgon's is just a classic Demogorgon thing to do, which is screech really loudly and open its mouth and claws really wide. This one is best viewed in third person and one of the more menacing ones from the survivor's perspective, as you have this huge humanoid creature open its mouth filled with hundreds of teeth and screech right at you. I like that this is almost like a full body animation instead of only focusing on the weapon. It reinforces that the whole of Demo truly is the weapon and not just its claws. Clown's is a pretty classically good one, with him doing this cool spin with his knife and then wiping it off on his sleeve. I like this one as it kind of exemplifies the nimbleness of his hands, clashing against his otherwise sluggish appearance. The spin itself is also just quite visually engaging and does feel like the kind of thing a circus clown would be able to do. Hag's is quite a unique one, and easily one of the grosser ones out of the lot, as she dribbles the freshly drawn blood from her claws into her mouth. This one is very unnerving, especially mid-chase when you look back to see her just dribbling the blood down. It's a cool animation though, and very character fitting. Cenobite's cooldown has the most visual flair, as Pinhead whips the chain back to the portal, opening his hands in this kind of ritualistic way. It's only right really that the newer the killer, the fancier the animation, and Cenobite adheres to that completely. I think the portal itself is what makes this so good, as it's just quite visually unique and has a nice pattern and design. Trickster's is essentially just the clown's cooldown animation, but just amped up. This animation has Trickster spin his bat in his hands, and then also all around himself, from hand to hand and around his back. My only issue with this one is that you don't get to see it go round your back as the killer, because, well, it's behind you and out of your field of view. This is amazing though, especially combined with all the lightsaber sounds as you do this. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own favorite animations down below. Thanks, and goodbye.